Commissioner Plant, are you there? Oh, there you are. Good morning. I'm Mark Blank, and this is the Commissioner's Weekly Meeting for Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. Commissioner Plant, you ready to approve the consent agenda as presented? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, yes, I would vote to approve the consent agenda.
Commissioner Gilman.
I would also vote to approve the consent agenda.
As would I. Let's go to 23M-0217R, the RTD audit and other things. Ms. Terry.
Good morning, commissioners. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. I'm Cindy Rose Terry with State Safety Oversight Engineer for Rail and Transit Safety. I will be discussing PUC's semi-annual audit, which is audit 3 of the RTD light rail operation. Staff completed the semi-annual virtual and on-site safety audit 3 of RTD and submitted a report of those findings to the commissioner for review on August 8th. 8 checklists in the SMS areas of safety management policy, safety risk management, safety assurance, and safety promotion in the RTDP tests were reviewed. There were 4 findings of non-compliance made during the audit. 8 checklists were reviewed for the spring audit. Staff recommends that the commission approve the semi-annual virtual and on-site audit report dated August 8, 2024.
Commissioner Plant.
I agree with the recommendation.
Commissioner Gilman.
I also agree.
As do I, and that I think that can be an ABC order. Ms. Terry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Proceeding number 24V0321EC, Black Bear Transportation, Mr. Riley.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nate Riley with Transportation Staff. On July 29th, 2024, the petitioner, Black Bear Transportation LLC, filed a petition for a waiver of Rule 6305, Luxury Limousine, as it pertains to a 2022 Toyota Sienna XSE with approximately 75,000 miles. The waiver was requested from July 30th, 2024 through July 30th, 2026 for a period of 2 years. The petition was noticed on July 30th, 2024, and no interventions were filed opposing the waiver. In support of the waiver, petitioner states that the underlying vehicle was purchased for approximately $45,000 in June 2024. However, petitioner notes that similarly equipped vehicles are listed with purchase prices well above $50,000, which would have qualified the vehicle under Rule 6305A6. Petitioner states that the underlying vehicle is a deluxe 3-row, 7-passenger, all-wheel drive vehicle that is comparable, if not superior, to other qualified luxury limousine vehicles. Petitioner describes the vehicle as sporty, sleek, luxurious, spacious, and comfortable. Petitioner lists several luxury features, including an all-black exterior and black synthetic leather interior stitching. Second row captain shares a powered sunroof, ample storage, and multiple cup holders, 4-zone automatic climate control, and wireless smartphone charging. Petitioner also lists several safety features, including pre-collision systems, automatic emergency braking, driver assist, lane departure alert, and pedestrian detection. Petitioner describes the potential clientele as those needing private airport transportation, exploring shops in Steamboat Springs, weddings, concerts, wine festivals, and miscellaneous other events in Routt County. Petitioner also submitted several photos of the underlying vehicle. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, I'm prepared to move on to the recommendation.
Do you have any questions, Commissioner Plant? Commissioner Gilman?
No.
Yeah, why don't you can move on to your recommendation.
It is recommended that the commission deny the petition as requested. According to the manufacturer's website, the make model of the underlying vehicle is classified as a minivan. Rule 6305A provides criteria for luxury limousine vehicles, including various categories of vehicles that can be classified as a luxury limousine. Specifically, Rule 6305A3, which establishes the executive van category for luxury limousines, excludes vans that are classified as a minivan by the manufacturer. A decision to deny the waiver would be consistent with the parameters of the referenced rule and previous commission decisions that have denied requested waivers involving the exact same make model of vehicle in the past.
I don't know. I'm getting ready to start waiving this rule. I don't know that we want to do it here, but I just think Colorado is so underserved on transportation that we may need some more flexibility. I don't know. What do you think, Commissioner Plant?
Yeah, I mean, this sort of what classifies as luxury seems to come up all the time, and we keep on. I mean, we need to comply with the rule. I understand that, but I think it's all a little tight and subjective, and like you said,
It's our rule. We can waive it. That's the petition in front of it, is to waive it. So
yeah. I mean, I would support waiving it. I just think, what is luxury, what isn't luxury, and as you pointed out, we have a real need for transportation in the state. So I would support waiving it.
I don't know, Commissioner Gilman, where are you on this? You've been listening to these cases longer than I have.
Yeah, Mr. Riley, what other kind of options are there, I guess, for kind of transportation carrier types if you had a vehicle like this and were willing and able to run a business to provide transportation in that area? Are there other options?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the question. Are you talking about what types of vehicles are available, or like the quantity of carriers in a particular area?
No, different types of either permits or CPCNs that could be pursued to provide transportation.
Oh, sure. So yeah, there's miscellaneous transportation options. Luxury limousine, admittedly, is one of the easier ones to pursue. Really, the big crux of whether carriers will qualify for getting that kind of a permit to operate in that manner hinges largely on the type of vehicle they have. So in this case, based on my research, it does not appear that this particular petitioner currently has a luxury limousine permit. I would suspect they may pursue one if this waiver is granted. So we're not talking about an existing licensed carrier that wants to simply add an additional vehicle to their current fleet. They would essentially be coming in, it looks like, fresh as a new carrier should this particular waiver be granted. But yeah, they can pursue luxury limousine permits. CPCNs, yes, are also an option. It depends on what their specific business model is and how they intend to operate is largely going to govern which avenue they want to pursue. But there are potential options. They could open up potentially a taxi company if they like. Again, depending on their operating area. I know they mentioned Steamboat Springs in Routt County. That would, I believe, require a CPCN for a taxi service there, or if they intended more of a shuttle or some other type of call and demand service. Again, those probably would also require CPCNs. People tend to pursue luxury limousine permits just because they're much easier to obtain. And again, one of the big qualifiers to whether or not they are eligible to get one usually is based on them having a qualified vehicle.
Yeah, you're right. Seen a lot of these come by. So I guess I have two kind of conflicting concerns. One is I agree with you all, especially in the rural areas of the state, it appears, more transportation options would be better. But at the same time, I mean, this is very clear rule language that specifically excluded this exact type of vehicle. And we've enforced it in that way in the past. So I have essentially a practical concern on the one side in that it would be good to be able to evaluate additional options, especially for kind of lower barrier to entry transportation in some of these areas. But on the other side, I have, a fairly significant fairness concern in that we have enforced this rule in this way in the past. And it feels a bit arbitrary to begin to enforce it differently. Seems to me if we want the rule changed, we should change the rule. Instead of somewhat arbitrarily applying waivers now with the rule as it is. So I think my preference would be to deny the application, but if we're serious about thinking there need to be more options here, perhaps we instead go into the rule language and make the rule language more permissive, to lower the barrier to entry in the ways we've discussed.
Mr. Riley, what's the purpose of the rule? I mean, in a world where we're short on transportation service, is this to protect like limousine owners, or I just don't even get why this rule exists.
Yeah, well, historically, if you look at our, I guess, statutory mandate to regulate luxury limousine vehicles, if you've kind of seen how the qualified vehicle rule has evolved over the years, it started out pretty strict, including, again, only certain makes and models being qualified and certain features being displayed like TV service and beverage service included in the vehicles. There's been times where there's been discussion on making only stretch vehicles, limousine options and things like that. But, I'd say slowly but surely over the past probably 10 to 15 years, the commission has elected to kind of make this rule more and more flexible. In fact, our current rule structure under Rule 6305 is the most flexible I've ever seen it in all my years at the commission. That has helped the industry in that it allows them to use a wider variety of vehicles. But at the end of the day, this is something that is intended to be a luxurious experience for the passengers, for the customers. And so some standard, I believe, needs to exist. In regards to this specific rule regarding the executive van category, which has been a longstanding category within this rule, I think that was something that got put in the rule, again, just to kind of capture that luxurious experience that I guess passengers would kind of expect to see when they're utilizing this kind of a carrier to perform the services they're requesting. So I think that's just some basic history of that rule and kind of how it's evolved. One thing I would mention is that I know there was discussions the commission had last year regarding some stakeholders in the luxury limousine industry and their intent to open up this rule again and kind of discuss where it is, where it's been, where we want it to go. That is still the intent and something we are planning to include in an upcoming NOPR. So that is something I think we will see sometime soon in regards to opening up this rule and kind of really diving into what the commission would like to see in this industry. And also to your point about limited options, I would mention the luxury limousine industry is our largest permitted industry. We typically have over 1,000 permitted carriers operating in the state within that category. So just wanted to share that as well.
Well, Commissioner Plant, what do you think, having heard all sides of this?
No, I'm sympathetic to the argument that to waive it here would be arbitrary. I do think we need to fix this though. I mean, if not, redefine what qualifies as a luxury limousine, at least include some sort of rural carrier service or something that where we can, if you've got a good vehicle and you can provide safe service for customers, I'd like to see us have some sort of a pathway for people to do this other than us determining whether or not their vehicle is luxurious enough. I mean, it's black. Yeah. They said that the vehicle's black. I mean, yeah. So I don't know.
If you can't get a ride from Steamboat to the airport, I'm not sure you care how luxurious your vehicle is. But
right.
All right.
So
I guess
I would support the recommendation.
As will I. But maybe Mr. Riley, next time we can see if there's a more principled way, either through a NOPR or through individual decisions that waive the rule in a more principled way. That'd be greatly appreciated. Maybe it's a rural exception to underserved areas, as Commissioner Plant suggests. So I think that can be an ABC decision denying the petition, but maybe we can reframe this issue the next time we get one of these.
Understood. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Proceeding number 22A0315, EG, Ms. Dundas.
Good morning, commissioners. Can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you. I'm Lindsay Dundas of your commission counsel, and Mr. Mendelson's here to answer any questions as well. This proceeding is Public Services 2023 DSM plan proceeding. In recent filings, the company has stated that it's still working under this proceeding's budget goals and plan offerings until proceeding number 23A0589EG concludes. There's been some recent action in this proceeding, and if it's okay, I'd like to summarize all three filings at once before the discussion continues.
That'd be great.
So first, on July 31st, Public Service filed a notice of success in the DSM plan proceeding. In its notice, it states that the company for the calendar year through June 30th, 2024 has spent approximately $70 million on its electric energy efficiency efforts, with an estimated savings of 401 gigawatt hours. With the company's current forecasted electric EE trajectory, it could spend approximately 115.6 million with an estimated savings of 593.5 gigawatt hours. However, because this would exceed the commission's authorized budget amount by approximately 22 million, the company has taken steps to cease expenditures. The company states that it does not have an intention to greatly exceed the authorized budgetary levels for 2024. So on July 31st, the company sent notice to DSM contractors that it is pausing further spending on EE programs through the remainder of 2024. The company told contractors to submit invoices by the end of the day on August 15th for all work completed through August 2nd, and then no work should be started during this pause. Because of its forecasted spending levels, the company has stopped processing customer applications for electric EE offerings, with the exception of those available specifically for income qualified customers. The company stated in this filing that it is not looking for specific commission relief, but is instead providing the commission with an update. Then on August 5th, EEBC and SWEEP, which were both parties to 3115EG, filed a joint filing titled Response and Petition for Declaratory Order and Motion for Preliminary Injunction. EEBC and SWEEP state that they received the notice on 7/31 that went to DSM contractors and told DSM providers to stop working on all projects that would require an invoice to be sent to the company. They argue that this unilateral move is bad for customers, the DSM industry in Colorado, and worse for the continued success of DSM programs that need increased customer, contractor, and customer engagement to be successful. EEBC and SWEEP argue there's no, quote, imminent crisis because the DSM budget is, quote, not a hard cap, but only the budget to which a presumption of prudence applies. They request the commission grant its petition for declaratory order pursuant to Rule 1304. They argue that the commission should accept this petition because a legal controversy exists. They state the legal controversy is namely whether the company needs to use the 90-day notice process to stop awarding rebates and incentives as the company has done here. The petition argues that the commission has ordered the use of the 90-day process since at least 2009 and continues to approve its continuation at least through the 2024-2026 DSM plan. And they argue that stopping awarding rebates and incentives constitutes an unprecedented and significant mid-year modification of the plan. And in addition, EEBC and SWEEP request that the commission issue a preliminary injunction in accordance with Colorado Rule of Civil Procedure 65. They state that they have shown a, quote, reasonable probability of success on the merits of its petition for declaratory order because public service has not shown anything that contradicts the need for the use of the 90-day process. They state that there's a risk of immediate and irreparable injury without the injunction, and that to enjoin the company, which would force them to continue paying out rebates, would preserve the status quo while the commission weighs the merits of the success notice in this petition. Finally, third, at the end of the day, on August 11th, the company filed a motion titled Motion to Address Electric Efficiency Budgetary Pressures for Calendar Year 2024. A request for waiver of variance is necessary. In its proposal, Public Service puts forth three proposals to address this issue. The company's preferred option is to increase the approved budget for the electric EE offerings to add an additional 34.1 million to the 2023 electric EE plan budget that's currently set at 92.9 as applied to the calendar year 2024. Company states it reasonably expects that this preferred option would allow the company to continue providing all of its cost-effective electric EE offerings to customers through the remainder of 2024. The company also presents two alternative options that are not its preferred course, which involve either approving a smaller increase in budget for 2024 or directing the company to endeavor to manage the future EE program without budget increases through company flexibility to pay out current or future rebate applications no earlier than January 1, 2025. To the extent necessary, the company requests waivers and variances such that it may implement one of these proposed alternatives, and argues that there would be good cause to grant the partial waiver or variance as the public interest is furthered by the options set forth in this motion to address the unprecedented budgetary concerns, and also to provide clarity to all parties in the market at large. The company can move forward to implement the commission's resolution of this motion. So that's the three filings summarized. And as the company and EEBC both acknowledge, this is a somewhat unique situation that we find ourselves in. So my recommendation is to not deliberate on the merits of the filings today. So I can turn it over for your initial discussion, or I can present a procedural decision point.
Yeah, if you can make your procedural recommendation, that'd be great.
So I recommend shortening response time to the company's motion to close of business on Monday. While the company does not request this relief, both EEBC and the petition, both EEBC and its petition and the company's motion make clear the disruption currently occurring in the market, and therefore the need for the commission to act expeditiously. So with that in mind, I think it's appropriate to set response time to both the motion for the preliminary injunction as well as the company's motion to 8/19 end of the day. Once the commission has a better understanding of the party positions, it can act on the merits of the filings in due course and as quickly as possible.
So I'll just say a couple things first. I think I've been in this job for 3.5 years, and I believe this may be the first preliminary injunction I've seen. As of this Monday, we now have a request from the company to deem as much as $34 million in future additional spending as being prudent without any testimony, evidentiary support, or much of anything else. At the same time, this is moving so quickly that I've yet to have an opportunity to fully vet all these pieces with advisors and counsel. So today I'd like to do what Ms. Dundas suggests and shorten the response time to the company's motion until Monday, but would like to hold off on any substantive discussion on the merits until next week. That will allow us to hear from the parties, including any additional options for dealing with the situation, ensure we avoid creating any prejudgment concerns, and allow us a little more time to sort through these relatively novel legal and evidentiary issues. So I know we all may have initial thoughts, frustrations, concerns, but I think it'd be better if we held off until next week. So I guess Commissioner Plant, are you ready to vote to approve the shortening of the response time to the company's motion until Monday? And would you be okay if we held off on a substantive discussion until next week, the Commissioner Plant?
Yeah, that's fine. I do have some concerns about this whole process, but I can hold off until next week, as you've requested. A quick question: as we do this, do the programs continue to be on hold until we make a determination after the response time is done?
Ms. Dundas.
Yeah, Commissioner Plant. From my understanding of the motion filed by the company on Monday, they haven't made any changes to the path they laid forward in that email to DSM contractors. So my understanding is that that's still in effect. That no rebates will be. I think I said 8/15 was the last day that they are issuing rebates for any work that was before 8/2. So the concerns presented by EEBC and SWEEP in their motion for preliminary injunction are still live as far as I can read from the company's motion. So short answer is yes. They are, the programs are not running to the best of our knowledge as this process plays out.
Do you know what the monthly dollar run rate is, Ms. Dundas?
Of how much they've been paying out these incentives?
Yeah. So it's what they spent 75 million in 7 months, so it's 10 million a month.
I'm not
roughly.
aware if the spending's consistent like that, but yeah, the figure from the motion is that they spent 74.2 million through July 31st. So if you can do that math, yeah, about 9 million a month.
And do we know if the rebates are just set too high, or do we know what's going on?
again, I only know what was filed in their motion, and I did not see much explanation as to why or how this occurred. So no, I don't know the answer to that.
Commissioner Gellman?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate your concern with prejudging and kind of hope to push much of the discussion off, but I'm a little struck by how chaotic this is and thinking perhaps it didn't need to be this chaotic. I think EEBC and sweep indicate real concerns about, the potential for irreparable harm, especially if rebates don't kind of continue or get reinstated in fairly short order. I mean, I guess what I would say to Commissioner Plant's question, Ms. Dundas's answer is, to my understanding, that is all at Public Services discretion right now, right? The commission has not said you may not give any more rebates out. This is a unilateral decision by the company, and if they were to proceed to reinstate those during the pendency of us seeing this, that is also at their discretion. Is that fair, Ms. Dundas?
So I agree that the commission didn't give the company any order to cease paying rebates, and that was something that, as I said, they followed it as a notice to the commission that this was their plan they're undergoing. Until the commission speaks to the merits of the preliminary injunction or the petition or the motion before us from the company, the commission hasn't said either way that it can't or can continue paying these incentives. But the company does state in its motion that it, sorry, let me find the exact quote to. The company asserts that it has the authority to spend prudent funds on electric EE beyond commission authorized total budgetary amounts. So it's my understanding from their motion that they understand themselves to have the authority to continue paying these out.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I guess my big issue here is the urgency. We're seeing somewhat of a lack of urgency in the filings, and that it took about 12 days from when people were noticed that the programs would stop to actually get a filing from Public Service requesting anything. And even if that didn't request to shorten the response time, which I think we're able and should do today. So, to me, I think their time is of the essence here. It could be helpful to issue some questions today. So while we run out response time on what we have before us, we can better understand and establish some sort of record for the request that they've made without burning more time. I think there are some fairly obvious questions that we could ask today to kind of double up in the time we're already going to spend waiting for responses, to act as quickly as we can possibly act with kind of the path that Public Service has set us on. So
I think that makes
questions.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's more just trying to avoid driving this to a conclusion on the substantive merits before we hear from the parties. So if you have questions, that'd be great.
Commissioner Flint, did you have something before I set up?
Yeah, I just had a question. Could we issue a presumption of prudency until we get this issue resolved, which may take, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks, but in the intervening time, so that these programs can have some continuity as opposed to sort of stop and start? Is that something that we can do?
I'd be nervous about giving a presumption of prudence for $34 million on this record. I mean, we had a full adjudication to set the caps, and this is a large amount on.
Not for 34 million. I know that they're seeking a determination of prudency through the end of the year. I'm just saying, in the intervening time as it takes us to make this decision. So the process is to shorten the response time. That's going to be next Monday. Then we would come back and have a decision next Wednesday. I'm just saying, can we extend a presumption of prudency until we have an opportunity to make the decision on this so that we can get programs back up and running?
Ms. Dundas?
I mean, starting from, the position that the commission has broad authority to regulate these utilities, I can't say that you can't do that. But I'll just remind you that the company and EEBC seem to agree that there's nothing preventing the company from paying out these rebates. It's just that they don't have assurance on cost recovery, and that would be a question for a later day about whether this money was prudently incurred or not.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
That's what's holding them up as a presumption of prudence. So.
Sure. So to give them the presumption of prudence now, I think, is essentially the ask in the motion. So I'm not sure how we would tailor that to not essentially be adjudicating the merits of the motion. And I think if we want any further analysis of this, we might want to go offline.
I mean, perhaps the one thing I'd
Commissioner
add
Gunn,
to that, Commissioner Plant, is in the company's actual motion that they filed on the 12th, they indicate that spending through the end of July 2024 was, I'm scrolling, looking, was in the 70 millions. 74.2 million from table A and their motion was spent through the end of July 31st. I will point out that Ms. Dundas, wasn't the budget that was set 78 million plus flexibility of 20%?
The company states that the budget that they were using is a blended year budget of 92.2 million to hit a 484 gigawatt savings target from the 2023 DSM and BE plan.
So to me, the question of can the company continue at least for a couple weeks with a presumption of prudence, maybe somewhat already answered by the information we have. As of the end of July, they had spent 74 million. They can spend up to 92 million already approved. So I guess part of this is that I'm confused as to why, this was kind of thrown into this chaos. They had not actually hit, to my understanding, the budget plus flexibility yet, although I certainly understand they are projecting to exceed that for the year. But it's not my understanding that they are beyond the budget plus flexibility at this point in time, and therefore would have no prudence on any further spending. But that's just what I'm reading in the motion.
Or maybe a gold rush too, if it's a risk of not getting paid. So you may see a lot of applications.
Yeah, so maybe I'll go through a couple of questions that I had that I think could, if we were to issue them, somewhat concurrent with the kind of response time running, ideally get much more information, as you pointed out, Chair, as to the brief nature of the motion and kind of lack of information that is contained there that may allow us to make a decision based only on what's in the motion. So first of all, in the company's notice of success that was filed January 31st, they indicated that they might need up to $22 million extra for the year if the program's continued at the current trajectory, which could net about 593.5 megawatt hours in forecasted savings for the year. Those numbers changed significantly within less than 2 weeks until they filed their motion. The motion, those figures changed to 34.1 million and 688 megawatt hours. So I would appreciate if the company could describe the process and data used to determine the figures presented in both the notice of success as well as the motion as to the forecasted expenditure and achievement in terms of energy savings, so that we can understand the difference there, as well as what data they have used to substantiate those, a pretty concerning change in the number in less than 2 weeks. So I think some additional elaboration on that would benefit us quite a bit to understand what they are actually using to come to these forecasts, so that we can better understand how their motion is substantiated. It would also be ideal to have them identify the total dollar value associated with executed contracts or rebates for which the company has already received an application, including the portion of those expenditures that's expected to occur in 2024. One of the things that's most confusing and concerning kind of with the notice sent to customers is I'm not clear how this affects already contracted work, which the company or contractors might be obliged to continue, which presents a very interesting situation for the decision to just immediately pause all spending. It would also be helpful to understand how many applications have currently been received by the company in the 2024 electric EE business rebates category, what dollar value and savings level those applications are expected to represent, and of those, some identification as to the current application and implementation status, to the extent that's known, so we can better understand these forecasts for the remainder of the year. It would also be helpful to understand and have the company categorize and characterize the expected overrun in the electric EE business rebates. If there is predominantly a type of measure where we're seeing the costs far exceed the projections, and certainly if the company has any insights, is it the addition of outside rebates or other things? Why are we seeing a deviation from what was expected that's so significant? And then any understanding on if the company evaluated other ways to mitigate spending for the year before they took this approach, including refining incentive levels or any additional discussion with stakeholders that was had before this decision that they made. And then, kind of a separate discussion, but looking forward for spending for additional years, the suggestion that they would just move all this spending to Jan 2025. I'll point out the 2025 budget is no bigger than the 2024 budget was. And so it would be helpful to understand if the company has any processes or current, stakeholder discussions to understand what the implications are for 2025. As far as what we're seeing here. So I feel like those would get us started on a much quicker path to get the actual information we might need to really assess and understand what the budget looks like for the rest of the year as the company sees it. It's certainly my hope that in the pendency of this, they could use all of the flexibility that they already have to ensure that there is not the type of serious disruption to these programs that it seems like we have at this point.
I support all those questions and maybe would like also a little more detail on, not just what they did to see if they could, maybe mitigate this problem through altering the incentives, but, what it would take, whether we should be lowering the incentives and the rebates going forward to sort of better manage demand, but otherwise support all the questions Commissioner Gilman wanted to ask Commissioner Plant. Are you okay with those questions? Any you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, I think that covers the initial questions anyway.
And I would point out, I think it would be helpful to understand, especially with regard to that question in terms of what mitigation measures they really evaluated before going down this route. But I'll point out, we have another whole separate proceeding going on, 0589, that is intended to set measure level incentives and things for 24 through 26. So I think that's important to consider as we look at what, if anything, happens to rebate levels for the remainder of 2024. There could be a very awkward roller coaster that I'd like to avoid in terms of kind of knee-jerk changes to these things, especially with them being set elsewhere. Not that we can decide anything, obviously, in that proceeding today or anywhere else, but I think we need to view the whole big picture as far as consistencies. I think, as was pointed out in EUBC's motion, this is, a market that the company and money from its ratepayers have spent decades fostering. And so it's important that we ensure that there is some consistency here. And I certainly hope that the company aids us in that effort.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like if our run rate is $9 to $10 million a year and we got 5 months less, you know, maybe the 34 million isn't enough. So we should take a hard look at whether the rebates are too high. Or
My
there's
understanding, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead,
Mr.
Commissioner.
Chairman, my understanding was that this is what I don't quite understand about this, is that it seems as though they ran through the budget much faster than they expected, because of increased uptake in the incentivized programs. But it seems like they would see that trend happening much earlier. And it seems like our process that we have in place is that if you see that trend happening, you enter into the 60, 90-day process. You have stakeholder discussion. If there's a change in the incentive level that needs to be done, you have that discussion. And none of that happened. It just sort of, the program stopped and we got a notice that they'd stopped the programs and they need more money. It's like, if I feel like we have a process in place, it just wasn't followed. And I'm not sure I understand why.
So I think the exact process that should or could or had or had not had to be used here is sort of the question at hand in the deck order. So to the extent you go down this line of conversation, I just remind you that that would be the question you would be accepting and denying the petition to answer next week. But at a high level, I think what I'm hearing you say, Commissioner Plant, is that inherent in running these programs is transparency, and that there's concerns there that no matter what process should or could have been used, transparency is an issue. But I don't mean to speak for you, just remind you of that.
Yeah,
That
I'd echo. Yeah, it's like, why didn't they notice people earlier? It seemed like this should have been, if it was a constant run rate, it seems like this should have been a foreseeable issue, and you can give people notice before you shut it off. So I think it can be framed as a question to the company, you know, why wasn't there the possibility of more notice? Is that sort of how you'd frame this, Commissioner Plant?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like this is something, if they're tracking their rebates and the measures that are taken, that they're incentivizing, they should have seen quite a while ago. And I just don't understand why they didn't see it, why they didn't notify stakeholders and all that sort of thing. And whether there was some sort of a breakdown there.
All right, so can we add that question, Ms. Dundas? I guess there's going to be an ABC order going out in the next day or so. Can we add that?
Yeah, I've been taking notes of the questions to present in the order. We just need a decision point. I think it makes sense to characterize these as like questions to supplement the company's motion. So that would look like the form of these questions coming in, that type of pleading. But we need a deadline for that.
I was just gonna add, like, without a doubt, there's a lot of questions as to how we got here and how we avoid this in the future. And, you know, I think we'll probably be looking to Ms. Dundas' guidance as we move forward about what do we deal with right here with regard to what happens for the rest of the year and the expediency that's needed for that. And then whatever kind of investigation modifications to ensure we don't end up here again. As I said, I mean, this just feels far more chaotic than this needed to be. And so I don't know, I'm fine with asking it, and it seems reasonable to kind of amend. I had a question about what kind of discussion or action did the company take to assess changing incentive levels. I think that can just be expanded and notify stakeholders as to what was going on, or make any other adjustments internally to kind of mitigate the budget problems they were seeing. But I think we'll have to see as we move forward, where does that issue land, kind of the investigation and modifications going forward. is a little, perhaps a more complicated issue than what do we need to finish out 2024 and not severely disturb this market.
Well, Ms. Dundas, I'd see if the company could respond end of day Monday, and the same time the parties are responding to the motion to the extent they reasonably can, so we can try and get this teed up for a decision Wednesday. Would that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think that makes sense as a filing deadline for the questions as to what those responses look like and if additional process is needed once we see those responses. I'll hold my tongue on that till next week and we see them.
It may need another week. Let me just take a vote. Commissioner Plant, does subject to Ms. Dundas's cautions, does that work for you, Commissioner Plant?
Yes, it does.
Commissioner Gilman?
Yes.
So
Anything else? Go ahead, Ms. Dundas.
so I hear a 3-0 vote to issue an ABC order shortening response time to the company's motion to end of day 8/19. I believe that's Monday.
Requesting supplemental information on their pleading from 2 days ago.
Great, thank you.
Does that give you everything you need, Ms. Dundas? And again, that can be an ABC order. Thank you,
It
Ms.
does, thank
Dundas,
you.
thank you for all your help with this. It's moving very quickly and very awkward. So appreciate you finding that line. Commissioner Plant, anything else before we adjourn?
No, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Gilman, anything else before we adjourn?
Nothing additional, thanks.
Thanks, both of you. With that, we're adjourned.